I've talked about the horror games I'm excited to play next year. I've talked about the horror books I'm excited to read next year. What about the horror movies? I am pretty excited about this list of movies I got here. I gathered all of my options pretty naturally just from seeing stuff on social media and online and things like that. And the list I came up with just as I was jotting stuff down here and there, not that many remakes and sequels, actually. I don't think there's anything wrong inherently with a sequel or a remake, but the balance with the original releases just has to be right, you know? And I may be presumptuous in saying this, but the balance feels right for 2025 so far. These 10 movies are the ones I am right now most excited for, most anticipating, but I'm gonna go in release date order naturally. So that means we are gonna start with Wolfman, which is the latest from horror icon Leigh Whannell. I never have any idea what's happening with this dark universe thing. Sometimes I hear that it was like something that they wanted to do and now the idea is dead, but I feel like Leigh Whannell is just single-handedly trying to keep it alive. I don't really know. Somebody let me know in the comments. Is this still a thing? Is Dark Universe still a thing? Anyways though, this new take on Wolfie follows a family that are attacked by an unseen animal and they barricade themselves in a farmhouse while the creature prowls outside. But then the patriarch of the family starts transforming into something monstrous. I like the kind of change in the plot rather than just hitting the same exact points of the original, as expected from Whannell. I really have high expectations for this one after his take on The Invisible Man. And I think ultimately I'm going to like this movie. It's just gonna come down to the creature design, which I'm very interested to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. Like, what are you hoping for? Are you hoping for something a little similar to Lon Chaney Jr.'s kind of Wolfman, or something a little bit more like realistic wolf looking? Another one of my most anticipated this year is Present from famed director Steven Soderbergh and Neon, who had a pretty great year in horror, I gotta say. This movie is shot entirely in a first-person perspective, but the perspective is from the unseen presence haunting a family in their new home. I love this idea. It feels very singular. Like, I don't know if this is something that will be replicated to death. I mean, it could be, but we never know. The trailer looks super creepy. I feel like the format is gonna make for some really scary scenes. And I also can't wait to see Lucy Liu on the big screen again. This is gonna be great. And I don't think I've ever seen her in a horror movie. Has she ever been in a horror movie? I don't know. Then we also have Companion, which looks absolutely unhinged, and I'm here for it. And I'm low-key loving that the trailer gives pretty much nothing in the way of plot, and there's no plot summary to be found anywhere, to the point that this feels like it might be on purpose. Either that or this movie is not going to come out in January like the internet says it is. But hopefully we won't have to wait long to see this movie. The trailer, if I just had to make a guess, looks like Sophie Thatcher's character might be trapped in some sort of twisted arrangement with Jack Quaid, but it's really hard to tell what's supposed to be going on. And normally I wouldn't be this stoked with this little information, but the way the trailer ends with Sophie Thatcher's arm being burned while she just sits there, like, that sold me. I was like, now I have to see this movie. I have to know what's going on here. There's no better way to celebrate Valentine's Day than by going to see a scary movie that'll make you cling on to your loved one, says the single girl. I love a gimmicky slasher, blame it on my millennial horror upbringing, and Heart Eyes seems like it's absolutely going to fit that bill. I feel like gimmicky slashers are at their best when it's related to some sort of holiday. This movie follows the Heart Eyes killer who wreaks havoc on Valentine's Day by stalking and murdering romantic couples. It looks stupid, but in the best way, like the way only a holiday slasher can be. And I'm particularly excited because this is directed by Josh Rubin. I'm a Dropout girly, and nobody quite makes me laugh to the point where I genuinely feel like I'm gonna pee myself like Josh Rubin. So I'm really excited to see this. After having one of the biggest horror releases of 2024, Osgood Perkins is back like really soon with The Monkey, which is an adaptation of a, you guessed it, Stephen King's story of the same name. The story follows two brothers who stumble across a vintage toy monkey in their father's attic, and a string of horrifying deaths follow. The brothers discard the toy and attempt to move on with their lives, but the strange deaths begin again. I've not yet read the short story for this. I plan to, obviously, just a little bit closer to when the movie comes out. If anybody is interested in reading it, it was published in the collection Skeleton Crew. And we'll see if this new movie is going to have the same like epic box office appeal as Longlegs did. I feel like the one thing the monkey has going for it is how soon it's being released after Longlegs. So the momentum might be able to build back up again with this. We'll see. I feel like everybody was excited to see Dakota Fanning in a horror movie this past year with The Watchers, and our prayers may have been answered. Maybe Dakota Fanning might be in more horror movies, because right at the start of the new year, we're getting Vicious from director Brian Bertino, who directed The Strangers and The Dark and the Wicked, both two horrifying slow burn horror movies. The movie follows a woman who spends a night fighting for her existence after receiving a gift from a strange visitor. Very vague, but very intriguing. Dakota Fanning will be starring alongside Kathryn Hunter, who had one of the most iconic performances of 2024 in The Front Room. Whether you liked the movie or not, she was epic in that. So I'm excited to see her in a horror movie again as well. I love The Strangers. I've talked about it a lot on this channel. It's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. So the expectations are high for me for this one. Now, I'm not a Marvel fan in particular. I've seen quite a lot of Marvel movies. In fact, sometimes I feel like I've seen enough. But hearing a Marvel director is doing a horror movie, I'm interested. Ryan Coogler, who previously directed Black Panther and Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which are two Marvel movies that I actually have seen, is making his horror debut with Sinners, which will star Michael B. Jordan in a dual role as twin brothers who return to their hometown to start over, only to discover that an evil has been waiting to welcome them back. It's vague, I know, but the trailer looks incredible, honestly. It's giving Southern, like, gothic, occulty vibes, and we don't have nearly enough horror movies with that kind of energy. There's just something very special about a kind of spooky, occulty movie with, like, swampland and just Spanish moss everywhere. So I'm really excited to see this. It's up there for me as one of my more anticipated movies out of this list. Orphan director Jaume Collet-Serra is back in the horror genre with The Woman in the Yard. I will say, for the release date supposedly being in March, I am kind of worried that there's no specific plot summary and no like trailer of any kind, teaser or otherwise. So I'm low-key expecting this one to get pushed back. I'm just gonna say that right now. All we know about the movie is that it's about maybe a family and a woman in black keeps appearing in their front yard. That's all we know. It sounds creepy though. I love Orphan. It's a great horror movie. I also have a deep nostalgic love for House of Wax, which Jaume Collet-Serra also directed. Either way, I'm gonna be looking out for this movie to come out at some point, hopefully in the next year. I always expect horror movies to be released around my birthday. Being born at the height of summer, I'm pretty much expecting all of the blockbuster summer movies to be released like the week of my birthday. And this year it looks like that summer blockbuster is going to be 28 Years Later, which is of course the third film in this series following 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. Not much is known about the plot yet, other than, well, we're picking up 28 years into this apocalypse. This is a planned trilogy, apparently, with the first film seeing the return of director Danny Boyle. The second film apparently was shot back to back with this one, so filming is like already completed. 28 Years Later Part 2, The Bone Temple, is directed by Nia DaCosta, which is honestly really exciting. The main thing everyone seems to be talking about is the fact that this was shot on an iPhone. I feel like whenever this happens, that's all anyone talks about. Personally, I don't really see the appeal of shooting a film this way. But then again, I'm just some bitch. What do I know? I'm not really sure how it's going to work out for an action-heavy movie like this one though, so only time will tell. So IMDb says this one is in post-production now, but there's no specific release date other than 2025. Although this seems like a really good like spooky season release, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we're going to be able to see Guillermo del Toro's take on Frankenstein in 2025. Del Toro is easily one of the best filmmakers of our time. I feel very confident in saying that. And Frankenstein is a story I love seeing no matter what. And the cast is goated, honestly. Mia Goth, Jacob Elordi is set to play the monster, which I'm really excited to see. I'm excited to see him do this role. We also have Oscar Isaac, Christoph Waltz, Ralph Ineson. Like, damn. Okay, go off, cast. Obviously, we don't have any specific plot details yet, so it's unclear how or if Guillermo del Toro is going to kind of change up the plot a little bit. Based on his previous movies, I'm kind of expecting him to give his own spin on this. I feel like there's no possible way Guillermo del Toro can mess this up. Like, Frankenstein feels very much up his alley. So those are the movies that I am most anticipating in the new year. Of course, we are also supposed to be getting some pretty big sequels, supposedly, in 2025, but we don't have a lot of info on them yet. So The Conjuring Last Rites, I will never believe a franchise movie is the last one ever, but okay, you want to call it The Last Rites? Go ahead. We're also possibly seeing Megan 2.0, and then I Know What You Did Last Summer. So we will see if those are coming out maybe later in the year, and that's why we don't have info on them yet. But it's your turn now. I want to hear from you. Let me know what horror movies you are most excited for in the new year in the comments. And that does it for my most anticipated. All that's left now is to wrap up the year in horror. Since I did a most anticipated games video, I will be wrapping up my favorite horror games I played this year as well, along with the books, along with the movies. I'm just waiting for Nosferatu to come out. So that's gonna be like the last video of the year, just so you know. Already kind of anticipating Nosferatu being in the top 3, so I gotta wait for it to come out so I can make that ranking. I will see you soon now with some 2024 ranking videos coming up. Until then, stay strange. Bye.